in my last TED Talk, I spoke to you about the power of the mindset, and I talked about how just changing a mindset can have an enormous impact on some great stuff that happens in the world, and I gave you some examples. And I left you at the end of the talk with the mindset that I wanted you to change, which was, I think I can, from, oh my God, I can't do this, to yes, I can do anything I want. And I think that as a result of that, perhaps, and perhaps some of you are already there, you did do a lot of I cans. When there was a disaster in the Philippines, you raised a bunch of money in a very short period of time to help all these people. Some of you, when you heard about the issues in Botswana and you're building a school in Botswana, some of you, on a more mundane basis, are actually working so you can get your degrees, right? Yes, I can. Some of you thought you couldn't do it. And as an example of this particular TED Talk itself is an example of I can attitude, because we only had a few days to do this, and 3 guys, Kevin, Daniel, and Kirill, in 1 week, they worked together with me and created this presentation, and they did a terrific job. So give me a big hand. Thank you very much, guys. So, now that you know you can, I want to give you a really important challenge. Something that actually is a big issue. People have talked about it already, and I think that you can actually make a big improvement in the world. But the question is, are you up to it? Are you? Doesn't matter, because you're doing it anyway. But before I tell you the challenge, let me give a little bit of the background and explain what the real problem is. Now, you remember last month, there was a Jeff Utecht gentleman who spoke to you about technology.
It has allowed us to create communities like never before. It has allowed us to connect across oceans and lands like never before. We have created communities time and time again. Just a month ago, Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google, stated that we create as much content in 2 days than we did from the beginning of mankind till 2003. In 2 days, we create as much content as we did from the beginning of mankind through 2003, every 2 days.
Now, what he was talking about, and he gave you lots of examples, and those of you who have seen it will know it, and those of you who haven't, maybe you want to go and check it out, because it really is a good speech and good inspirational stuff. And what he was talking about was the amazing opportunities that the internet has created for you, what I call the Facebook generation, to do amazing things in the future, right? But what you may not know is that all this fascinating stuff that you take for granted, the Google, Facebook, all that wonderful stuff that is so complicated and so difficult, actually only happened in the last 65 years. It was in 1949 that a couple of guys just like you at Oxford University, they decided that they wanted to create a calculating machine. And they used a simple phenomena of binary, zeros and one, to be able to build that machine. And in fact, it is that zeros and one can do things like this, based on just 0 and 1. Watch. All that actually was supposed to turn into this web that you take it for granted, right? And you know it is made up of zeros and one. Those of you who want to understand it, you can look it up binary and you'll see that it is simply a function of 0 and 1. 0 is the absence of something, 1 is the presence of something, right? Not that 1 is more than 0 or 0 is less than 1, it's just that they are equally as important in this binary, right? And it is based on this binary that this whole web thing that is humongous, and you know all about Snowden, right? That's a big deal. All that is because of this zeros and ones. So the fabric of the web is made up of the binaries of zeros and one, right? So the question I asked is, what is the fabric of the universe? Is our universe maybe have a binary? Because maybe that's how it was built. And as it turns out, it probably is. And some of you who do physics will know this. What he was showing you here was that built on, those of you who know physics, the binary of the universe being electrons and protons, based on that is this complex universe. That's what made up of, right? So the binary of the internet is zeros and ones, the actual zeros and ones. The binary of the universe is what? Electrons and protons. Within the binary of the universe is this, what is this? Life. This is a subset of life. What do you suppose is the binary of life? The binary of life are X and Y chromosomes. So much of chemistry, right? And within that sphere or subset of that is within life. What is within life? Humanity. Now, that strip, that 8, it's not an 8. It's a Mobius strip, and it represents infinity. And the beauty of that is it's one of those paradoxes of universe where you can go from one plane to the other. So if you draw a Mobius strip like that, you can go from one to the other. And the point here is that you can transform from the physical world to the virtual world, which is the internet, right? Because you don't actually physically work in the internet. It's in your head, right? So it's virtual, and whereas this is physical. Within that humanity, what do you suppose is the binary of humanity? Men and women, right? And the point is that if the binary of humanity is men and women, and I was mentioned to you before, just like there is no value difference between 0 and 1, they are different, and that's what makes them very powerful, but there is no value difference, right? And the same way, in here, there is no difference, and that's the point I'm trying to make, from a value point of view, between men and women. They are different, and those differences are fantastic. So, that's the key to the whole thing. The question is, if we impose an artificial constraint, what do I mean by artificial constraint? Something that's not natural, right? Zeros and one, the binary, naturally they are equally as important, just like electrons and protons are equally important. But if we impose a condition and say, nah, one of them is more valuable than the other, what happens? Watch. When you mess with the binary of anything, I want to do it again. I want to shh. Hey, see this, Mr. Vader Dot? Oh, yeah. Technology here, you know. I keep pressing the wrong button because my fingers are too thick. See Mr. Darth Vader here? I'm trying to point to him. He decided, or somebody equivalent to him, that, you know what, these zeros and one, I don't like zeros. I want all ones. And what is one? In a computer world, 0 is no current. 1 is current. Turn it on. So that's what happened. He said, I want everything ones. So he got, okay, you saw the point is that if you mess with binary, what happens? Bad things happen. So if you mess with the binary of humanity and you say, boys are better than girls or girls are better than boys, bad things will happen. Now you might think, oh yeah, Mr. Khan is exaggerating, you know. Who would do such a thing like that? Watch.
Mr. Joe explains. 20 people from the family planning department arrived at 4 in the morning. They kicked the door down. He shows us the footprint. And then they held him down while they took his wife away. Within hours, she'd been injected. As we look at the paperwork confirming the abortion, he explains that he didn't even know where she'd been taken. By the time he'd found out, the outcome was inevitable.
Let me give you a background on this one. If you remember, maybe you're too young to remember, but those of us who are old enough to remember, a few years ago, China decided, world population getting huge, too many people, people having too many babies, so we'll fix that problem. They said, everybody, one child, one family. That was like a good idea, solve the problem, reduce the population. Except one teeny problem. Some people had this mindset, messing with the binary, that boys are better than girls. So anybody who was going to have a girl, they were going to have an abortion or somehow not have them, which is what this was all about. This guy, you know, his wife was going to have a baby, and some people decided, bad idea, maybe in-laws or somebody, and thing. So what happens? If you go some research, you will find out, right this minute, there is a problem in China. There are almost, 60 million boys in China for whom there are no girls. Think about it. 60 million boys, no girls. Sounds like a major problem to me. Now, somebody pointed out yesterday the ratio is 22:1. So unless somebody makes a change that each wife can have 22 husbands, maybe that'll solve the problem. May create some 22 other problems, but that's another problem. Do you see what I mean? So when you mess with the binary of anything, especially humanity, bad things happen. This is one example. Let me give you one other example. Let me play this first, and then I'll tell you about it.
I was not worried about myself that much. I was worried about my father, because we thought that the Taliban are not that much cruel that they would kill a child, because I was 14 at that time. But then later on, I used to I started thinking about that, and I used to think that the Talib would come and he would just kill me. But then I said, if he comes, what would you do, Malala? Then I would reply myself that, Malala, just take a shoe and hit him. But then I said, if you hit a Talib with your shoe, then there would be no difference between you and that Talib. You must not treat others that much with cruelty and that much harshly. You must fight others, but through peace and through dialogue and through education. Then I said, I'll tell him how important education is, and that I even want education for your children as well. And I'll tell him, that's what I want to tell you, now do what you want.
That was an interview Malala Yousafzai, I'll give you a quick background in a minute, did with Jon Stewart, amazing guy too. What happened here was, in northwest frontier in Afghanistan area, there are the Taliban people. There are a group of people who believe that women, they belong in the kitchen, they don't need to go educated, they just know how to cook, and that's fantastic. And anybody who does education is not good, right? And this girl, along with a bunch of them, she was going to go to school, and some Taliban told her, no, this village, no women should be educated. She said, no, I'm doing it anyway. 3 or 4 of them were going in a bus. One of these guys came along and actually shot her. You see on the left side of her face, it was all paralyzed, and luckily some people got her from there and transported her to Birmingham, England, and they did surgery, and then she's a celebrity. She talks about the power of education in women. The point being, that this messing with binary in today's world happens all the time. It happens here as well. Earlier on, those of you who were here, you probably heard Anais. She talked about the discrepancy between men and women. All of that is messing with binary. All you have to do is change the mindset so that we don't value women less than guys. The mindset that we need to change is that, she talked about it, and gave her some examples, that basically the humanity of binary, don't mess with the binary of humanity, right? And at this point, my challenge to you, mission impossible, should you choose to accept it or not, is to go and change the mindset from men are better than women to we are equally important. At the same time, appreciate and celebrate the differences between men and women, because women are beautiful, the guys are macho, and that's okay, right? But nobody is better than other. Thank you very much, and I hope you do.